You're watching Business Review. Just now, let's join the CEO of MTN, Charles Molapisi. Welcome back. We have the Chief Executive Officer himself of MTN Zambia, and that is Mr. Charles Molapisi, who's been in office since September last year. Charles, good evening and welcome to Business Review.
Good evening and thanks for having me here.
It's great to have you on the show tonight.
Thank
you. came with such a bang, a great impact when you just came in, when I met with you last year during the Zambian Institute of Marketing Conference in Livingston. Yeah. How has your stay been in Zambia?
Well, it's been great. I mean, Zambia is a fantastic country. The people have been wonderful. The environment is great. The infrastructure is wonderful. So far so good. I mean, I've been well received, by a lot of my partners, management and the board, and of course my key stakeholders, the staff. So far, I'm enjoying it. So good.
Fantastic. We were chatting earlier about how when you came, within a space of about 2 weeks, the kwacha dropped from 8 to kwacha to 12 kwacha to $1. What was that like for you? I mean, as the Chief Executive Officer himself.
Look, I think it's a challenge. I mean, because remember we do our budgeting cycle, and it was just too rapid, the change. So it is a challenge, but nothing that a CEO cannot manage.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Okay then. We'll chat a little bit about that later and how MTN is managing that.
Sure.
But I guess as we begin our interview tonight, we would love to know, your customers and your clients would love to know, what do you have for them as MTN?
First of all, let me thank my customers. Let me thank the 5.2 million Zambians who on a daily basis continue to trust us as MTN with their money. Who continue to flock our network and use our services, and say from the bottom of my heart, I'm very grateful. I understand what that means. I understand the privilege and the responsibility that comes with it. The mobile business or capability that we have in this nation can be used in so many areas to unlock value for this nation. In many countries, mobile business is used as an enabler for economic growth because we touch so many lives, we touch so many entities, we provide capabilities. We have the capacity and capability to be able to transform the nation, to leapfrog and to lead Africa to be able to move into the digital space. But on a basic level, I think for our customers is product and services, competitive product and services, great experience on a data network, the ability for them to be able to conduct their businesses where we can be able to help them to cut costs. That's what we bring as MTN. So overall, our role is very pervasive as a mobile operator. It touches lives, it touches entities, and it can make a lot of difference.
The famous question that was being asked, and I was asked to ask the CEO himself of MTN, Charles, are there any intentions to further reduce the costs of your services to your clients in terms of data and voice and SMS services?
First, again, let me emphasize that we provide the best data network in Zambia. I think if you look at the quality of our network, from voice to data, we provide the best experience. And I think we launched a number of services late last year. I personally came on television informing Zambian people about the services that we are launching. The message in those videos that we drove for quite a long time was the creation for value for our customers. Because we understood the times and where the customers were. We came with products that gave customers a lot of value. The product we spoke about was a product around voice. We spoke about data. We spoke about smartphones. I mean, today we've got the best deal around smartphones, and that's creating value for our customers. So we, as a telecoms operator, remember we operate more in a real-time business. Every second counts. So we've always been in the process of continuously looking at ways of giving our customers value, price optimization, comparison. Those conversations will always be there, but at the center of it all is that what value do we create for customers? And we have been very responsible to our customers. Like I said, last year we drove a very massive campaign giving value to our customers, and we'll continue to do so and find those opportunities. But we're very practical as a business in terms of what needs to be done.
Now, Charles, I must congratulate you for MTN skyrocketing to grabbing about 47% of the market share in your telecoms industry. Now, how did you do that, and what are your plans to stay at the top?
Look, I mean, first of all, I have to thank people who came before me, both leadership and staff. Fantastic work. The impacts of CEOs and leadership, cuts beyond the normal tenure of a CEO. The impact of what the CEO does, or what leadership does, cuts for a number of years. So a lot of people make good investment. Key among those was the investment in a network in terms of coverage, in terms of quality. Today, our customers, if you look at our Net Promoter Score, customers rate our network as superior. They rate our data network and our voice network as the best in the country today. There is a legacy of the work that was done by many people in the business, management, the board, and of course the general MTN staff, and including our partners. And going forward, of course, we'll continue to work on that as we negotiate the new transformation of telecoms on how to position the business going forward.
Okay, very, very, very good news coming from there, talking about your plans for the future. Now let's, for a moment, talk about what you have for your corporate clients. You mentioned earlier in the interview how that you would like to now produce products that make business cheaper, the cost of doing business cheaper for the Zambian people, and to make life easier and quicker. Do you have any specifics along those lines?
Well, I need to mention that we are potentially the best one-stop shop for enterprise and SMEs in this market today. We provide solutions that cut across different verticals, different sectors. Home solutions as well on the internet front. I can start there. That today, 4,600 Zambian homes use the 4G LTE internet router by MTN. And I think for the larger segment of our customer, that is the most fantastic data experience for them. If you look at the point of sale machines in this nation today, MTN is responsible for connecting about over 6,000 of them. Vehicle and asset tracking, we provide those solutions for over 2,000 of that. If you look again into mining, for instance, the majority of the big mining houses in this nation use from a mobile side the data and the voice, and of course the fixed internet. And we're connecting, many of them, providing global connectivity for them, for South Africa, between here and South Africa and Nigeria. If you look in the banking, for instance, about 12 banks on the MTN network. From a wide area network perspective, we provide that, connecting their offices and their branches. And we connect their ATMs as well, providing ATM solutions.
There's a perception, Charles, that
yes.
MTN is the most expensive on the market. Is that true?
Look, I think perception in the mind of the customer is reality in the mind of the customer, but it is not correct. We are very competitive in our pricing. I think our data pricing in this market, I think we are pretty much competitive in terms of where we are. The same thing as with voice, and that's why last year we drove with this massive campaign to be able to inform the customer exactly where our tariff structures are. It doesn't serve us to provide services that are expensive and not be competitive. It doesn't really make sense. So we are definitely not. And by the way, we provide superior data experience, better than anybody else in this market.
Charles, how would you rate your customer service as MTN? With the backdrop of the complaints that we've been seeing on social media concerning data complaints.
Okay, I want to deal with the data complaints issue this way. Data usage is a global challenge. Understanding of how smartphones uses data and how they consume data is a global phenomenon. I think you can check in all the markets, pretty much all our markets in Africa, and even those who are operating in the European and American markets. There's always the challenge for subscribers who are coming into the usage of data, not understanding the dynamics of how a smartphone works. That essentially a smartphone is not like a voice call. It's not individual induced, but the smartphone itself has the intelligence to run updates on your smartphone when you're sleeping, updates of Facebook, some of them that goes in the background. All those depletes data in the back end. So certainly as MTN, we will not really engage into an activity that depletes customers' data without usage. And I think in most of those cases that you see on Facebook, you know, because I'm a very serious advocate for customer experience, I lead from the front when it comes to customer complaints. I follow those things through. And when we check into the back end, we can see that indeed, you know, there has been usage. The issue then is how do we educate the customers to know when to switch off the device, that when you go to bed at night, the downloads that happen in the back end will deplete your data. It's going to be a process of education. We're embarking on that. But it's fair to know that it's not a Zambian problem. It's not an MTN problem. It is a general move towards data issue. And I think all of us as operators need to do a bit more in educating our customers in terms of how the smartphone operates and the implications thereof.
Now, let's finally talk about MTN from a group perspective. How important is the Zambian market to the MTN Group, and how big is the MTN Group in Africa?
We are operating in 22 countries in Africa and the Middle East. We operate in countries, I mean, we're in Yemen, we're in Syria, we're in Afghanistan. You find us in Swaziland, Uganda, Ghana, Cameroon, Nigeria. I mean, the MTN story is an African story. It's an African business with its roots, family in Africa. So for us, this is our home ground. Africa is our home ground. This is our market.
And how important is the Zambian market?
The Zambian market is very critical. Look at on the enterprise segment. We are ranked as a tier 2 in enterprise segment. On mobile money, we're pretty much up there, probably around the top 6 in the total group. That's how much we're growing on mobile money in terms of percentage contribution to revenue, and how much we're contributing in terms of enterprise business. Is a critical part of the MTN Group. And you are seeing it, the testimony for that is the level of investment the group continues to make. You know, so they have a lot of interest to make sure that the Zambian operation is successful.
Are we reinvesting some of these profits back into the Zambian economy, especially during this time?
Good question. We're making very significant investments, but I also need to mention the fact that in 2015, MTN Zambia paid contributed about 300 million kwacha, you know, worth of taxes. So we understand what we need to do and our value in this market. We are building our network. We're investing this year. We're investing in backbone fiber. We're investing in metro fiber. We're investing in 3G sites. We're adding capacity on the 3G. We're adding capacity on the 4G network as well. And we've got quite significant amount of money that we spend on corporate social investment. So certainly we are making significant investment in this market, and it's important that the Zambians understand that MTN is here to stay. You know, we're not going to wake up one day and say, well, this market doesn't make sense to us. We're on firm ground here, and we're here to stay.
I love your closing remarks that MTN is here to stay. Yeah. It resounds with our Standard Chartered brand, which is here for good. So thank you very much for having you on Business Review tonight.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. We've been chatting with the new CEO of MTN Zambia, and that is Charles Molapisi, who has come with a very big drive to be able to change things and take MTN to even further heights and provide you, the customer and the client, with a much better service.